What is the most rebellious thing you did as a teenager? Friends and I were going into SN old nightclub when we were 16. To get in you had to climb over loads of rooftops and get in a hole in the roof. We also got our 18-year-old friend to buy us cider. As we were climbing up, spotted a woman look at us funny. I had a bad feeling, so got down. My friends continued. Went back to another of my friends' houses. After being there for 10 minutes, his mum tells us the guys had been arrested. The woman contacted the owner of the building and rang the police. 2 of my friends turned themselves in, one of which lied about being 17 when he was 18. The other 2 fled to the roof, which was very high, and the whole town could see them on the roof with police cars below. Fun times. Lucky that I got down. I missed 34 school days. You'll fail the year if you skip 36. If they were going to grant me vacation days, I figured LD take use of them. I stole a thong from Macy's when I was 15 because my mom refused to buy me one. Me and my friends got caught and got arrested by the mall cop. He handcuffed us to a water pipe below the main level of Macy's. Never stole again, and looking back, that was super creepy. I took a train to a different city that I barely knew to watch a concert of my favorite band at the time. I was underage, got in with a fake ID and went all by myself. Had the best night ever, danced right at the front of the stage, managed to get the drumstick, autographs, and had a photo taken with the lead singer. Stayed over at a hostel that only cost me $25 and took the train back the next morning. It was amazing and no one ever found out. My parents are very liberal hippies who believe in a hands-off parenting style. They were all saying things like society sucks, don't be normal, and so on. As a result, my elder sister rebelled by becoming a cheerleader, earning straight A's, and refraining from using drugs. The funniest rebel of all time. I stayed up late reading in bed with a flashlight. Caution, there will be badassery ahead. At 11 p.m., I snuck out of the house. I went to the store and purchased junk food. Then, after it had closed, my pals and I went to a playground. We ate donuts and fought with lightsabers until the cops arrived. I skipped school because I felt like it, and when my teacher asked me why, I told her that my grandpa, who was already dead, had died. Stole the battery out of some guy's truck who was trying to drive home drunk from a party and left it on his parents' doorstep with a note explaining why it was there. Had a pretty awesome house party when they were away. It was epic, but lots of things got broken and they were so mad at me they gave my bedroom to my brother and I had to have the tiny little bedroom for the rest of my time living at home. I would bring a box of Good and Plenty, licorice, to school, and when I wanted out of class LD take a white one and show my teacher and say I need to go take my medicine. They'd give me a hall pass and LD wander the school like a freedom. My middle school had a policy of no running in the hallways. Anyone who rushed through the halls received an automatic detention. So there I was, skipping down the corridor one day, skipping not running. When a teacher sees me, he says, "Hello there, stop. You've been given an after-school detention." I spun around in the middle of my skip, looked him in the eyes, and said no. Then I kept skipping down the corridor. I felt euphoria, pride, and delight because I had defied the system. I never had to go to detention. Smoking started at 17 and thankfully I quit last April for my 25th birthday. I left home without warning for about a year and spent some time being homeless in other countries. If I had money it'd be backpacking. Since I was dirt poor I slept in the streets of many cities and stole/begged for food most days. When I got home I took a shower and went to bed in my room, and the day after I attempted breakfast and my dad, who I lived with, never said anything about it ever. Healthy relationships FTW/S. In 6th grade I was around some bad people. We stole parts out of my school's computer room. We would also plan heists for our local grocery store. It basically went like this. We would go in there as a group, 4 or 5, while 2 had empty backpacks. We filled them up in a corner where the camera wasn't able to film us, then just grabbed something cheap and walked to the cash register to actually pay for. The ones with the backpacks would just walk through and wait outside. Then we walked back, everyone takes what they packed in, and we would just walk to class. Broke into an abandoned school with a buddy of mine and trashed the place. Looking back on it, one of the dumbest things we ever did without a doubt. But on the flip side, a giant paintball war in the old halls is one of my fondest memories. Skip school, get drunk and pass out in football fields. I was a pretty good kid. I used to ask my teacher if I could skip class. My mother would send me to psyche wards all the time as a teen. LD have maybe a few weeks at most on the outside before she either found or made up a reason for me to go. As a minor I had no say in the matter. One time I was in a long-term unit for a few months and had gotten to the point I reached the maximum stay time. The therapist I was assigned and my mother called me in to talk. Therapist told me my mom doesn't want me home but I can't stay. So the plan was to give me a choice: either I transfer to a 6-month youth rehab in the middle of nowhere or I can be sent to Australia, live in the US, to live with my uncle. I instantly had a dumb little plan. Elle agreed to be sent to Australia. I knew that no matter what there's gonna be some window of time to escape with that choice. When the time came I was driven home by my mother. You catch that? Driven home. The flight was the very next day I got out. At 1 Ami climbed out my window and went to go sleep on the beach. Couldn't sleep but made it through 2 nights. Came back to my house with my mom very angry, but I wasn't sent away or locked up for 6 months. That might have been my only win in my teen years. Used to sneak out once or twice a week to fuck some guy behind a bush. I'm pretty sure my parents figured out I didn't have a friend named Billy whose house we'd stay at, and his parents didn't have a phone. According to the meltdown my mother had, it was me wanting to attend a different church. When I was 14 we went to a 3-day school trip. Almost the entire class got drunk the first night. And I don't just mean tipsy, I mean one girl ended up with alcohol poisoning at the hospital, one guy tried to commit suicide, and at least 10 people puked. This was at a 400 years old castle. The result of all of that was 20 out of the class of 30 was expelled from the school. I did the typical teenage stuff: smoke pot, smoke cigarettes, sneak out at night to party with my friends. Drinking. I think the most rebellious thing I did was sneak out one night and tag a bridge with my then boyfriend and our best friend. But I don't know if it counts as rebellious because I never got caught and my parents never knew. I got really good grades, so my parents just assumed I ran with a different crowd than I actually did. Now we are all grown up and we don't speak anymore. I miss those guys. I didn't look both ways before crossing the street. That's right. I'm the definition of a bad boy. The most. Probably taking my ankle monitor off, committing a new crime and leaving the state for weeks. I wasn't trying to be a fugitive, I was just a bit crazy. My mom was out of town for a week, and she had left her car at the house because we dropped her off at the airport, so there was no need for us to leave it there. My stepdad is constantly going to meetings all week, so my mom is really the only person who keeps me company while I'm home. I'm an only child. That week my mom was gone, my dad was out of the house for 3 nights in a row, and her car was home. Me, not having a license, being lonely and basically going insane, I grabbed my mom's car keys off of the counter, and got in the car, and drove to town. My dad was 1 town over, so all T had to do was make sure I left before he did, so L didn't get caught. I had stopped by my friend's house with the car, and she came and sat in it with me while we talked about stuff I was having issues with, blah blah. I kept checking my tracking app to see where my dad was, making sure he hasn't left the town hall yet. I waited a good 20 minutes, before I checked the app again. When I looked, I saw him passing my friend's neighborhood. I started freaking out, told my friend to get out of the car. She got out and I hastily backed out of her driveway and left to go home. I called my dad. He had no clue I was in the car, asking if he could stop at the store to get me something mundane. He told me that he had stopped at the store to get the exact thing I asked him for. As he was telling me this, I was passing Safeway. Luckily, I sped home, and got there way before he was done shopping. Best thing I have ever pulled off without getting caught. I will also never do it again. Nice try, FBI, you didn't catch me then, you won't catch me now. I think one time I sneaked liquor out of my parents' liquor cabinet and drank it in a teal party cup instead of the usual red ones. I smoked weed, and when my parents found out and asked me who sold it to me, I didn't tell. I ain't no snitch. Get a tattoo, but my parents still don't know about it. Went into the GTA 5 strip club. Cut school, got day drunk, and tried to actually attend my English class after lunch. Threw up all over the school hallway on my way to the bathroom because I got sick halfway through class. I was removed from class by a police officer and suspended for a week. First major offense. Trafficked a felony quantity of ecstasy across state lines on a stolen motorcycle. When I was 16, I was stopped at a red light beside a cop. I couldn't see his face because his windows were tinted, and I was a 16-year-old douchebag who was driving a Civic. So I revved my engine. He probably didn't even hear it, and I gunned the gas pedal when the light turned green. I shot right up to the speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour. Cop immediately pulled me over in the McDonald's parking lot, where I happened to be employed. He called another cop and they started trying to find something to give me a ticket for because technically I didn't do anything illegal. Then he came up to my window and said, "Pretty brave of you to drive in front of me with those illegally tinted tail lights," and I quipped back, "They are visible within 100 m at night. I've checked." And he grudgingly went back to his car. LV never checked. 20 minutes go by. He comes back to the window. "So it says here that you require corrective lenses and you aren't wearing glasses," and I pulled off my shades, looked him dead in the eye, smiled and said, "I'm wearing contacts." I was not, in fact, wearing my contacts. He told me to have a nice day and drive safe. I offered to buy him a coffee for all his hard work and he refused. I've never done anything so brave and stupid ever since. Met a boy when I was 15, fell madly in love. He went off to boot camp. He wrote to me on a brown paper towel asking me to marry him. He finished boot camp February 2004. We got married when I was 16 on May 30, 2004. 17 years, 2 kids, and 2 dogs later. We're still happily married. Had a pretty protective mom. Single parent. So I never got to hang out with friends as often ASL would like. We were all going to different colleges, so in our last hurrah we bought tickets to go to California. I photoshopped a letter from my college saying come for a week and see what college life would be like. Blah blah blah. Had it mailed to myself. It worked. I always drew designs for weapons of mass destruction and just left them lying around. Also, I literally ate my homework every week for a whole semester. My mother was a drug addict who wanted me to get pregnant in high school for welfare. So on a roll and drug-free, no teenage pregnancy was my rebellion. Take a shit in a school toilet. It was sticky, it was uncomfortable, and I had diarrhea. Self-taught myself about forbidden topics, like evolution. It was pre-internet, so I had to sneak and hide books, and not let any book be returned late or the library would call my parents and tell them what books I was checking out. Couldn't put any on reserve for the same reason. Religious fundamentalism sucks. This one has 2 rebellious acts in one story. I started working out as a teenager. Some of my friends were trying to be smart, saying now you will have to eat a lot of meat and that costs a lot of money. So out of spite I stopped eating meat and I still don't eat meat. I got much bigger and stronger since then. Also, when I brought home the first container of whey protein, my mom searched the whole Google about it. My dad, as usual, didn't say much. After a while he got frustrated. He referred to whey protein as dog food in a rude way. Once he wanted to pour all new whey on our lawn because it's unhealthy for me. I grabbed the container, looked him in the eyes and said, "My schoolmates smoke a pack of cigarettes a day and get stupid drunk on weekends. I am trying to improve my body, so I spend my own money on whey protein." He let me be, didn't speak to me for a week or 2. That was the first time I stood up to him. I was around 13 at this time. I'm 21 now and doing well in life. I used to break into cars and steal change out of them to get food in the middle of the night. Then I would go house to house until I found someone with a back fridge to steal alcohol out of and get drunk. I would couch surf and sleep anywhere I could to be away from home. I used to steal my mom's cigarettes and sell them at school. To make money to get food and buy weed. This was a period in my life where my mom and dad split up and my dad just fucked off for quite some time and my mom was an alcoholic at the time. I remember so vividly the pain I was in. I was sitting at a skate park in the middle of the night with a few of my friends and a girl was seeing at the time and they were all getting excited about trying cigarettes. For the first time, I felt I was more mature than people my age and it made me feel so alone. My girl at the time pulled up my sleeve and everyone seen my arm. I used to cry every night and self-harm to feel a scare to cling to life. I would sell weed to people way older than me so I could buy new shoes and school stuff. I would steal from cloth stores by going into the change rooms, putting a new outfit on and just walking straight out of the shop. My mom once had a mental breakdown and fought me on the grass and fucked my face up. Remember going to school the next day and my classmates were asking what happened to my face and I had to lie and say it was the dog. Never had a dog at the time. I used to go to this one girl's house. We'd do nothing but she'd sneak me in and let me shower, go to sleep with her and cry in her arms, resulting with my actual girl leaving me for someone that was actually looking after me. My dad has a really good career, but since he was gone, legit was so poor and people were saying I was faking it all. There were a very select few that had an understanding of what I was actually dealing with. Still think about calling that girl and giving her a fuck load of money for all she did for me. I thought I would share this with the people who may be going through the same experience. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Trust the process and learn the laws of the universe. I'm 21 now and making a high 6-figure salary, but yeah, guess you could say I rebelled a little. Bunked school. Leave home going to school but just turn back on the way. I'd try as much as can to make it seem like I did. Yeah, I got an ass whopping when my mother found out. I don't remember if I had any reason to dislike school, but I know I never liked it. It was just for a few weeks. Only a few people know that once happened. Never spoke about it to anyone. Want it to seem like I'm praising myself, but I'd say I'm last person you'd expect that from. I wasn't even doing badly at school. Probably second in my grade. But there was something I hated there. Don't I know that isn't really a big thing. It's the only thing I'd say was rebellious I did. There is nothing that even comes close to it. Everything about me is kinda opposite to being rebellious. I still hate school though. Sold around $2,000 worth of weed in secondary school. Had a teacher even buy a 1/8th. Dad bought a new car. I wanted to learn. They were okay with it. I went out with my dad for a small driving lesson. The very next day I drove it myself at 5 in the morning. Brought it home before parents were even awake. Did it for 3 or 4 days. Everyone is amazed till this date on how the hell did I learn to drive so well in no time. I did the same with motorcycles in early age. Around 10. Committed several war crimes just because I was bored. Slept past my bedtime last night. Trigger warning, grooming I guess? When I was 16 I came home from work and got a text from my buddy's aunt that she was down to earth. One no an IDGAF. It was around midnight and I was going to go do this damn thing. But my parents might have heard me pull in the drive. Probably would hear me crank up to leave again. Lived in a rural area and decided to push the car out of the driveway to the street where I could leave quietly. There's a big ass ditch on our dirt road, and the driveway was at an angle LD overlooked. As soon as the back tires were over the hump it went careening backwards before I could get in to hit the brakes. Car rolls backwards and is just stuck. No way out. It tried and tried but eventually gave up and just went into bed. Next morning I wake up and my parents are pulling the car out of the ditch. NBD, it happens out here. I made up an obviously BS story about trying to check the mail for a thing I was waiting on, left the car in neutral, as it was a standard, and it rolled back. Have no idea how I got away with it. And we never did hook up. I had gotten angry at my parents and burnt down our barn. Got a girlfriend, and then kept it a secret for years because I didn't want my family to disapprove of her. At the time she had a lot of problems and was, well to put it mildly, very sexual. I wasn't really looking for that, but everyone tried to take advantage of her. We had been friends for a while, so I prevented that from ever happening. Our relationship went fast, but that was probably for the better if I'm honest. After 1 year I had learned so much about her that she started to trust me and become the adorable wholesome sweetheart she is today. I got at least 3 cuddle sessions a day, got to watch Disney with her because she loves it, watched Lord of the Rings which we both love, we would game together and it was paradise. Now I still love her and I miss those years. We're still together. Andy know 100% that she's loyal because we're both paranoid about losing each other, but she's in university, and it's taking a toll on her mental health. I want to tell her to quit because I'm worried about her well-being, but it's a lot of money and she invested so much time in, and she always wanted to be a psychologist. I don't really know what to do, but I love her more than I think she understands. Both the best and most rebellious thing I did. It was the mid to late 70s. I parted my feathered hair a little bit to the left, rather than perfectly centered. Yeah, the school administration had a meltdown. I ding-dong ditched the same house 7 times in a row. Guy came out so angry that he jumped in his crown to chase my friends through utility easements. We lost him by hopping into people's backyards. Never saw someone so angry, LOL.